9 and 11. So
that's a handful.
Should we go ahead and start? I think it's 7 o'clock,
Yes.
and we have some 20 people or something.
2 minutes past.
Okay.
yes.
Oh, no, now a dog came into my room here, just shutting the door. So, okay.
All right, so let's start. Welcome everybody to CoolHead Talk. And my name is Annika Lehtinen. I'm the chairman of the Finnish Beer Consumer Union. I'm going to hosting this talk, and we are going to talk about events today. And stream this to YouTube, so you can ask questions from there. And we have international guests and local guests as well. So from the local brewery, we have Aleksi Saikkonen. Well, actually, you can see the names, but still, it's important to tell them. So we have Aleksi Saikkonen from CoolHead Brew, who's been arranging events, for example, Craft Beer Garden or other events in Korjaamo. Then we have Tibor Rebak from Budapest Beer Week. And then we have Matthias Birkman from Lucky One Wines and Beers company. And you all been arranging events, but I was thinking that maybe we start with a short introduction. I mean, what you guys do and what is your background shortly. And then the most important thing, that what beer are you drinking right now? And maybe Aleksi is starting.
Hey everybody, so my name is Aleksi Saikkonen. I work as the marketing and development manager here in CoolHead Brew. A big part of my job is to be responsible for the events we have. So that's events we organize ourselves here in Finland. We organize 3 festivals annually, and then a bunch of smaller events like pop-up brewery terraces and all kind of fun things like that. Also, I'm managing the events that we attend to internationally. So if we, for example, go to tap takeovers in Sweden, I talk with Matthias about them, or if we go to festivals anywhere, I talk with, for example, Tibor here about Budapest Beer Week. And the beer that I'm drinking today is mango chili gose.
Good one.
So this is our beer. A very amazing summer sour. I think one of my personal favorites, goes well with sunshine and Mexican food as well. That's
all right. Thank you. And then Tibor.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks for the invite. Yeah, so my name is Tibor. I'm one of the founders and main organizers of Budapest Beer Week. I'm also like a part owner of 2 pubs or bars in Budapest called Csakajos and Hopaholic. I have a beer brand called Deal Breaker. Actually, I'm drinking a beer from our brand. It's called Berlin Showdown. It's cold brew coffee, blood orange, Berliner Weisse. I actually came from the other side of the brewing industry. I used to be a professional brewer. So in the past like 5-6 years, I worked in a small Swedish brewery called Höganäs Brewery, then for Brewdog in Scotland, then Signature Brewery in London, and finally Popper's Brewery in Gothenburg. And then I moved back home a year ago to actually focus on my projects here in Budapest, which is obviously a bit strange times now in this year compared to what, I don't know, I imagined, or we imagined actually last year, but I don't know, it is what it is. So it's time to figure out where to go next.
And then Matthias.
Yeah, hello guys, Matthias here. I'm an importer from Linköping, Sweden. It's right in between Gothenburg and Stockholm. We've been importing beers for, say, 5 years now, approximately. And we are organizing events like tap takeovers mainly, beer tasting sessions, and then attending to all kinds of festivals that we can think of, where we can promote the beers that we are importing. For CoolHead, for instance, is one of them, and our top brand, I must say. I'm not just saying that because you're here, Alexi. uh, and the beer I'm drinking today is Parlay from Anarchy Brew, actually, a British brewery which is struggling right now, but have done some nice hazy beers. Actually, I have the can here as well. There it is, Parlay. They're really cool labels and good beers. Cheers.
Thank you. And as I said, I'm Aniko. I'm hosting this, and I'm drinking. Actually, this is a hazy IPA from Olarin Panimo, which is a Finnish brewery, and it's Short Cup, the name of the beer. But let's start with the actual situation. I mean, this coronavirus has been developing a lot of different change of legislation and restrictions. And what is the situation in Sweden right now, Matthias, concerning events, for example?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit, so can you just ask the question again, because I didn't hear it.
So what is the situation now with events in Sweden?
Yeah, the situation right now it's a tricky one, because we are one of the few countries in the whole wide world which haven't closed down everything, and that includes bars, but all the events that were booked and planned were of course canceled, and now we are living a little bit in a limbo state. We don't know what to expect next, or when, rather. I'm having talks with breweries like Sudden Death the other day, and to see how we can plan a launch tour for them. But we can't right now, because we haven't got a clear picture of what to expect in the next, let's say, 2-3 months ahead of us. So everything is, when it comes to events over where there is more than 50 people at the same time, is forbidden right now. So everything is postponed, and we're just waiting and hoping that we can get the brewers over here and get things going again in normal status, but we don't see when. So it's a very weird and uncertain situation here in Sweden.
How about Tibor in Hungary? I mean, what restrictions do you have in Hungary?
Yeah, I mean, it's also a bit tricky, because roughly 2 months ago, the life pretty much stopped, compared to its normal form. So the government announced state of danger, state of emergency, like 2 months ago, I believe. So technically this meant like all bars had to close down. No events could have been held in the past couple of months or 2 months. And so even our shops and bars just could be open until 3 p.m. So we are open at 2 and 3 p.m. So normally what it caused, like a lot of, actually we had to postpone the festival as well. So we're postponing it with a full year now. And technically all schools were locked down, and let's say last day the normal life just stopped for 2 months. In this week, actually, countryside, they started to release these regulations a bit, and hopefully Budapest is gonna go back to normal soon. But yeah, that's it. Obviously, it changed a lot. All breweries and bars or pubs actually turned themselves into web shops, basically. If you're asking for the practical solutions. So that's it.
I have to ask ask in before Alexi goes on live that is it so that in Hungary, if you are having a brewery web shop, that you can sell out any strength of alcohol products? So you don't have any, like, for example, we in Finland, we have like some ABV levels that you can't
I
sell
see.
out.
No, we don't have any regulations like that. So it's easy to, yeah, it's easy just to sell or run your web shop actually. It's not like in Sweden or Finland or in Norway.
So Alexi, you can elaborate a little bit about the situation in Finland.
So, well, the current situation, of course, is that pretty much everything is still cancelled. Bars are closed, restaurants are closed, but restrictions are being currently lifted. So in the beginning of June, something will happen. Bars and restaurants will be allowed to open, but we don't really know how yet. Even though it's just 2 weeks away, we don't know what are the actual things and how are they allowed to open. And at the same time, also, it should be possible for gatherings of over of under 50 people to be made possible again. Now, currently, it's under 10 people. So regarding events as such, very unsure, but it's possible that from the beginning of June, it might be possible to organize small events with safety distances again, maybe, if it's safe.
Yeah, just actually just one side note. Actually, in Hungary, all events at this current situation, all events are banned until mid-August, August the 15th, regardless their size. So that's what we know.
Okay, so everything is banned, all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
events.
As it is now, no events or, like, let's say, concerts or festivals, no music events should be held until August 15th.
And are the restaurants still allowed? I mean, how do you know when the restaurant's going to be open longer, or are they still until 3 p.m. in Hungary?
I'm not sure. I mean, again, in the countryside, actually, I think they can be open now. So they reopen a lot of bars and pubs in countryside. But Budapest has a, I don't know, it's just a different situation, because 20%, 25%, 20% of people actually live in here. So this is just it's just a different story. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe there are like whispers and rumors now that maybe from next week, maybe from June, maybe it's always a maybe. I mean, honestly, it's just like, you don't know. But again, maybe 2 weeks and we can reopen.
How about in Sweden? The restaurants are open still.
Yeah, they have been open all the time from the start of this virus spreading. They never decide to close anything actually when it comes to restaurants or pubs or anything in particular. I mean, the schools have been open all the time as well. So the strategy in Sweden has been completely the opposite from the rest of the world, basically. We've seen that. But the problem there is that they have to lay off people because no one visiting the restaurants instead, or the pubs. They're pretty much empty, or has been empty rather. I mean, that affects us as an importer, and when it comes to sales to the restaurants, of course, the sales have dropped like a stone, and they are just pushing out the stock that they have, first of all. So the beer's not that fresh anymore in the pubs. But we are seeing a little bit of a change in southern Sweden, in Malmö. I was actually there yesterday on a business call, and the Brewdog bar there, they said that they've noticed a little bit of a change. So hopefully some areas in Sweden we can see a normalization, a slow one, but anyways, some way going back to normal in maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 months time or something like that. What we heard from the government side is that nothing is going to change till mid-June, first of all. And when it comes to traveling abroad, we are not allowed to do that, at least until the 15th of July, as it seems right now. So it's hard to arrange events, especially with the brewers, because we don't know when we can put it on the agenda or the schedule. This is one of the topic we had with Oliver the other day at Sudden Death, and he is hoping to be able to travel mid-July, but as I say, we can only hope. The trouble has been now at the bars that of course they're open, but their sales have dropped between 70 to 90%. Some bar owners, some managers that I've spoken to has even been crying when we speak to them, and they're so devastated about the situation. So and it affects you, of course. I mean, emotionally as well, to see this. Even we are also affected economically about this, but it's sad to see that maybe half of the pubs that are around right now will not be alive in the fall because of this. Even though the government has been putting in support with financial support for the smaller companies, especially, but it's still not enough. So
what alternative ways do you see? I mean, are there been any movements to create more virtual events or virtual festivals? Or what kind of movements do you see in your country? Is there been any kind of other ways to arrange these beer festivals, for example? How about Tibor?
Yeah. I mean, basically, yes. I mean, there has been loads of like online beer releases or beer tasting videos, or I think actually we've been also thinking with Budapest Beer Week to do some kind of online version of the festival. What we know or today at least, it's not going to happen in the same week as we will start. Our festival would have started next week. But we are actually planning like an online event or like an online live or something like to have some kind of, just to summon some kind of spirit of what we imagined as Budapest Beer Week. But I don't know. I mean, an online festival would be, it's just not the same. I mean, it's just not the same. You can play, of course, and you can act, but and it could be fun, of course, but it wouldn't be the same anyway. But yeah, just to close it down from the bars and breweries perspective, I feel this kind of online tastings or online videos are working.
How about Alexi? What do you see in Finland?
Well, there's obviously a big trend of doing different kinds of virtual events and testing different kinds of concepts. For example, we have this CoolHead Talkshow. In addition to this, we have a concept called Behind the Beer, where our product manager Pietari explains our new beer releases in Insta Live, and then engages with the audience, which is sort of a mixture of communications and a virtual event. But yeah, I have to agree with Tibor. There's things that work very well in virtual events. Like, for example, this discussion, people can actually pay 100% attention to it. There's no distractions like background noise or background movement or stuff like that. But then if you compare it or try to do something virtually like a festival, I just don't really, I would like to see a concept that works, but there's just so much of the physical things that is impossible to get into a virtual realm, I think.
Yeah.
How about Matthias? What do you think? What have people done in Sweden?
Well, I can agree with both of you guys on that. It wouldn't be the same to do a virtual like festival. It can work with a beer tasting session, or as when you release a new beer, for instance, it can be a good thing to offer the ones who buys it that they can join a virtual beer experience, of course. But then I've seen that some breweries here in Sweden have done some festivals, quote unquote, now instead viral instead of live. But I don't know the effect of it yet, but I can just guess that, I mean, the feeling isn't really there to do things like this. It's a, to be blunt, it can be a waste of time for the brewers to do a thing like this. Not to sound too pessimistic, but anyways, speaking from my heart, I think I mean, the human beings are built in a certain way. We are just missing out the social interaction right now, to meet people live, eye to eye, and to have this beer experience that we have at the Gothenburg Beer and Whiskey, for instance, and see the reaction as well, and in people's faces and stuff like that. And we don't get this in the same way if we do it on a live video stream. That's my thought and guess, actually. So, but of course, the brewers, especially here in Sweden, they are trying, and they're trying really hard. So I mean, it gives a little bit back to the people, of course. But I think in the end, it's more like a marketing thing to keep the people interesting on the upcoming beers, rather. I think there is the gain in it. And I think you can agree with me there, Alexei.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just build on that? I think we should not be trying to build these kinds of plan B options for things that work better in a physical realm. Instead, I think we should try to build concepts and ideas that work now, and then they work when the restrictions are lifted a bit, but then they also work when things are back to normal.
Exactly. Yeah, I can totally agree on that.
What do you think? I mean, how this is gonna change the consumer behavior? I mean, concerning events. I mean, can we kind of add the virtual and the live event, or what do you think about what's going to happen in consumer behavior? What do you think, Alexei?
Well, it depends on the time scale, of course. I think in the near future, maybe the next trend will be this kind of social distancing live events where you take, for example, 30-40 people with safety distances, and they go to the park and do, I don't know, craft pills yoga. But that's like on the next thing I see is going to happen. Because like Matthias said, people miss the actual physical contact, but people also want to be safe, and event organizers want to be safe. So everything that needs to happen or happens needs to be very sort of careful and responsible, of course. Then I think the next step after that will be like carefully building on event sizes a bit and scaling how the public consensus goes. Also, I don't think that there is one public consensus. We might have, for example, like our audience group for CoolHead who wants to have, for example, terrace events as soon as possible, but then we might have another audience group who frowns at the whole idea. So there's a lot of tricky ground there everywhere. So I don't know, and things are very unsure.
What do you think about Tibor, about how the consumer behavior is going to change?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, if I knew, I would be, I think, very smart guy. What we see now, obviously, again, just repeating you as well, people, I think, looking for physical activities and contact. So what we expect once, let's say, not just the festival things, but all the concerts and the pub reopenings coming back, I feel like the locals definitely want to go and have their beers and just to talk. On the other side, what we don't know is how it's going to affect the way of we can actually organize, or we want to organize festivals, because even as Budapest Beer Week, we never really wanted to be too big or grow too much, but we kind of expected that, I think, more people this year and then the next year. But at this very moment, I'm not sure if we really have to do it, or we maybe just rather go for smaller events, or more events, maybe not just big, maybe not just one big, but more or smaller events. I'm not sure. Maybe people really, I think that's like a nice thing to say. That people want to go out, but maybe not too crowded events. It's really hard to estimate here, I feel.
What do you think is going to be happening in the future? I mean, is consumer behaving going to change?
You ask me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's breaking up a little bit. So, well, I think definitely consumer behavior will change in the beginning after this, at least, for a substantial period of time. And that's also one of these question marks that we have when, like, Gothenburg Beer and Whiskey Festival is one of the largest festivals we have here in Sweden every year. 25,000 people visiting it for 2 days. Even if we have it in October, which is the plan right now, how will it look? Will it be 500 people at a time, maybe, on this big area, or we don't know. So of course, I think for a lot of people think safety first, I guess. So they will be a little bit skeptic to get out there in the beginning, in one way. On the other way, or on the other hand, I see at the bars, they get crowded real quick if the people are allowed to. So so it's a two-way street a little bit.
So do you think that maybe there is a time now for smaller events, like really small, like under the 500, and you can do them in series, or is there any business in that?
Don't know, actually. I think for sure, smaller events in pubs, maybe, or even smaller outdoor events for the summertime. That can be a possibility. Then if it's any business in it, it's hard to say. I don't see a crowd of 500 people. It can be very cost consuming for us and for the organizers, of course. So I'm a little bit skeptic to that.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So basically, I think one thing that is very specific to events and this situation is that because events, even a mid-sized event or even a small-sized event, it actually takes weeks to organize and produce, but it's very difficult to estimate what is the public consensus any given week. So, for example, I don't know what is the public going to be thinking in even 1 week. So it would be impossible to plan a mid-sized event or even an event currently for under 50 people that would happen in mid-June, because I have no idea what the people will be thinking. Is it safe? Can it be done?
And so do you think that there's going to be like a, for example, you can help this organizing an event with different kind of new innovations, for example, in size of the events or what people are wearing, or is it there going to be, because people want to gather around. That's something that, I mean, that's like really normal and we can see, but are there any new innovations? What, I mean, in, for example, now they're talking that they can create this different kind of hoods or whatever that people can meet each other. The innovations we see in the future that allowed people to gather around, or is everything outside? What do you think, Tibor? I mean, Hungary, it's an easy country to have an outside event, comparing to Finland and Sweden.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
so do you think that in future you could just gonna have all the festivals outside?
Maybe, who knows? Maybe like big open air, or like I don't know. Like they do actually a lot of illegal parties here as well, like illegal techno parties and things. So maybe that's going to be a thing. Maybe we need to find a way to have to mix these things. I mean, Budapest Beer Week is actually like an open air. Actually, it's like an open air and indoor event mixed somehow. So to us, if we can have like a nice spot and limit the amount of people, of course, for us, it's going to work, I think. So even the festival, you can keep like kind of social distancing, and it's and our festival actually never been too crowded. I feel it was like more like a friendly family vibe, even compared to the size of the people. But in terms of what people has to wear or not, I mean, if I imagine even just a bar or festival with people wearing gloves and masks, that seems like pretty, I don't know, pretty odd. I mean, maybe if they're gonna invent something like a scaphandre or something like a nice, cool, I don't know, lightweight helmet. Who knows? It could be very, I don't know, sci-fi, which is cool. So maybe in 10 years now, I'm not saying next year, but maybe in 5 to 10 years now, we can actually do events in like very weird outfits, and that's gonna be cool. You can brand it with your festival. Of course, I'm sure there's gonna be a thing maybe moving towards that direction, but I just can't see it now. What I feel is people want their lives back. They want to go out, and they which actually makes me think a bit. I'm not thinking negative, anyway, and just clearly I feel human behavior is like, it's so easy to forget, the danger. It's so easy just to go back normal and do your old kind of routines. So I don't know how much social distancing they're gonna keep after 1-2 weeks outside. I mean, it's easy once you have the regulations. Even here in Hungary, you could feel once they announced the state of danger, people really, I mean, they stayed home. They don't go to shop, or just they go now, but they're wearing masks and gloves. But after 1, 2, or 2, 3 weeks now, I mean, I see people on the streets. I see a lot of cars on the roads, and people are just starting to go countryside because they just want to be outside. So I don't know. That's the ultimate answer. I don't know.
How do you feel, for example, in Sweden? I mean, it's not that easy to arrange, events outdoor whole year. In Hungary, it's easier.
Oh.
But how do you feel? Is there's going to be all the events going to be outdoor, or are we going to wear different kind of outfits that,
I'm not a believer of this outfit thing. I don't think that's going to hit actually, but here in Sweden, the festivals have been either in the spring or in the fall and winter. We haven't got much festivals here in the summertime actually. So this can be a time for change. to push this festivals closer to the summertime when it's warm. We know that the virus probably don't agree with the warmer weather. We can at least hope so. And now this year maybe it's a long shot, but July, August could be a good place to have these outdoor events, even if it's a smaller event, of course. And I know, as Alexis said, that it takes a lot of time and effort to plan this and to organize and to fulfill it. But then again, we will wait and see what the government is giving us. If they say that, well, you can have 500 people now, or we can have 1,000 people now, or something like that. But I think the outdoors, that can be one of the things that all the organizers are starting to look at more and more. I know some of them, some of the breweries have their own things, like Brewski has the Brewskival in the late August, and that's outdoor. That's always outdoor. So, and that have worked fine. Now the Mikkeller celebration in Copenhagen was cancelled, but that's also outdoor mainly. Though they have their tents and stuff like that, but this year it was a no-go. Probably next year they're doing a even bigger thing then. I can only guess, but I think if you know Mikkeller right, it will be that way. And for our festivals that are postponed now, they have pushed them even further. They said mid-August first. Now it's a little bit further away. It's, I think, September, the Malmö Beer and Whiskey Festival, for instance. We just got that to us yesterday, actually. So, but I think we if they haven't thought of it yet, I think that they are coming to that conclusion soon, that we maybe can use June and July for these kinds of outdoor events, and not pushing them into the winter time when people are also getting even more ill. So
What do you think, Alexi? Are the festivals going to be outdoor now in Finland as well?
Well, I don't think that there will be any festivals during this summer in Finland.
But in the future?
Maybe, but that's, again, I mean, I'm sure that there will be big crowd events at some point, but it's just very difficult to estimate the time scale on when that will happen. At the current moment, I wouldn't see any kind of events where you need to have a mask or you need to have a special kind of gown. I just don't see them very comfortable. But I do see it possible during the summer. There can be small events where the organizer can plan the event so that it's you're maintaining safety distances in the same kind of ways as you would do in a bar or restaurant. It's basically the same thing. But what I see is as a sort of big challenge in those is the responsibility of the organizer. So, for example, what are you going to do if you have a person there who starts to cough around or stuff like that? It's just a very uncomfortable situation, because basically you need to
remove
someone out, and it's very, very difficult, which is why I don't really see. I just see it's very challenging at the moment.
I have a couple of questions from the audience as well. There's one question that, for example, how do you see, or in what way, if any, do you think the craft beer community will change their habits because of this crisis? I mean, you all work really close with the craft beer community. How do you see the whole community is going to change their habits? How about Tibor? do you see any changes?
I mean, maybe if you think of like a wider community, this time was actually a really good time. I mean, really good, not really good, but in a way it was good that all the breweries could reach their audience, I think, in a different level. So I can see breweries here really could build like a better, I think, better connection with their customers online. So who knows, maybe in the future that this is going to count a lot, like those people who bought a lot of beers and beer packs and through the web shops, they're going to go and check the brewery. If actually breweries maybe going to do more small events or open their small kind of tap rooms or fake tap rooms or tap room-ish kind of things, you know, just need a couple of banks and chairs. So maybe that's going to help us and build the whole community. On the other side, I'm not sure if it's not on the beer, it's not on the craft beer community, maybe the whole beer community, because it's getting harder and harder just to, I don't know, describe what's craft and whatnot. But I see now even breweries at the web shops, pubs as well, including us. I mean, we sold a lot of beers with like, not huge discounts, but still with discounted prices. So I feel like actually maybe we reached a lot of people who were in kind of doubt, like, oh, why craft beer is that expensive, you know? So I think a lot of people tried craft beer maybe for the first time, IPAs and all the stuff. So maybe they see now, oh wow, these are, you know, great products. So it was just a different channels we had to use, and maybe we reach more people. So hopefully, on the long run, those breweries who survive, they're gonna have like actually a bigger audience, because that's another question. I'm sure not all the breweries, not all pubs, venues gonna survive this situation, but hopefully, I don't know, hopefully if you talk like community, hopefully we can get out of this in a quite positive way. One last thing is, of course, I mean, again, hard to estimate, but in terms of traveling, in terms of, you know, discovering new places and people, I know myself, I'm not going to change. So once I think I can move, I am going to fly again. Maybe not that frequently, but still, I want to see the world. I want to visit other festivals, and I'm sure a lot of customers going to do the same. But it's going to be a question from the brewery side as well, because a lot of breweries, I think, thought, let's say, going to festivals and see other countries, you know, it's always a possibility to establish your name on the market. I know, let's say CoolHead was here for Budapest Beer Week last year. They were supposed to come this year as well. But people know CoolHead now, and they like their beer. So of course, it turned out. I feel it turned out pretty good. But I'm not sure all the brewers gonna think the same. I'm not sure all brewers wanna visit that much, wanna travel that much. Maybe they're gonna focus more on the local communities, more on the local markets. Because in the end of the day, this is the local markets, I feel, who are keeping these breweries alive. And sometimes it's easy to forget. That's what I'm saying.
What do you think in Finland's gonna happen? Is it gonna change?
Can you repeat the original question? Can you repeat the original question?
Yes, of course. Is there, in a way, do you think the craft beer community will change their habits because of the crisis?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think because whenever there's a difficult time or something like that, it brings communities together. So I would hope to see more and more of this, you know, unified front kind of thing that is already popular or it is a key aspect in the craft beer scene. But I would like this to bring it out even more when it comes to like very small scale and very individual scale. For example, I don't really see people sharing beers from their glasses with each other.
Yeah, that's
not anytime soon.
How about Matti? Do you see any changes or bigger, smaller level?
What did you say? Changes or?
Changes in the craft beer community because of the crisis. What kind of changes do you see?
Yeah, I don't know what to expect really, but changes for sure. There lobbying going on to open up the sales process here in Sweden for from the we have the monopoly, the Systembolaget, and we see a 75 to 80% increase of sales these past few months here in Sweden, and a lot of people wants the Systembolaget to disappear, basically, because it makes it harder for the small importers and the small breweries to get out to the people. And we have such tough regulations when it comes to setting up a web shop here as well. So I think selling directly from the brewery is one of the issues that they are working hard to figure out and to get approved here in Sweden. And from what I have heard in the next 2 years, maybe, it can be a reality for the breweries to sell their beers at the brewery to the crowd, and to have their, I mean, they have some festivals, smaller ones, at their breweries, and I think maybe they are looking into doing more like brewery tours and tasting sessions there and stuff like that, maybe. But because I haven't seen much of that, more than from the very big brewers like Spendrups, for instance. They have their so-called craft beers, and they have a good establishment for taking in an audience, showing them around and stuff like that, but not the smaller ones. And I think that can be something that will change in the future. I hope so, for the customer in the end, as well, because then the experience can be more powerful and more direct as well. And as like Tibor said, I think we've seen that people are more accepting the price range now, to pay a little bit more for a beer to have a nice experience, and we see that ourselves as well, with the increase of sales through Systembolaget, actually, especially with your CoolHead beers. So that has been a nice increase there, the last month or two, actually. So, and that is a big change for smaller distributors and for smaller breweries as well, I think.
And I think, I mean, there's the local products are actually meaning more for the consumer. So a lot of consumers, they are going for the local product, because then they do know that they are helping more the local companies to survive. And because people want to have local breweries, want to have local beer pubs, they, put their money. There's actually one question that. Because in Finland, it's not allowed to order beer from the Finnish brewery to home, but it is that allowed in Hungary. So you can order beer.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, and how about in Sweden? That's not allowed, I think.
No.
Yeah. So it's the same in Finland. Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have another question concerning that. Do you think that actually, with so many these like grassroots movements across Europe supporting local and small businesses, do you think that it will help narrow the gap between commercial and craft breweries? Do you think that the craft breweries and the commercial ones are coming closer together, or do you think that the gap is going to be more wide between the big commercial breweries and the breweries? So I think the gap between commercial breweries and craft breweries is going to be wider, or smaller? How do you think in Finland, Alexi?
Again, this is something I think depends on what level we are thinking about it. So basically, of course, the more there is movement about supporting your local, the more I think the sales and all that kind of stuff increases, and then narrows down the gap because the small ones are selling more. But then if you think on a sort of image level, I think it pushes apart even more, obviously, because these are the good guys who are local and these are the bad guys who are not. So that's pushing apart, which is, I think a good thing though. But basically it depends on the level, how you think about it.
Yeah. I have to say that in Finland, for example, the gap between the big one and the small ones are pretty wide. So people are, speaking totally differently about the big breweries and the small breweries. But I don't know how it's in. Well, I do know, but now, all the people don't know how it's in Hungary.
Yeah, I don't know. In Hungary, it's a different situation because the whole craft beer movement maybe started like, I don't know, what year is it now? 2020? maybe like 10, maybe like 10 years ago, let's say. So in the beginning as well, here it was like, oh, if you open a craft brewery, small brewery, it was always against something. I don't know. I feel, I don't know, maybe because I saw the other parts as well, like I used to work in or had internship in big breweries as well. I have many friends and people I know from big companies. So I know they also like, in the end of the day, they're also local. It's like a local business, even if it's a multinational or international company. In the end of the day, in the country, in Hungary, the big beer companies are also like, in the end, local companies, because they can give job to local people. If you think like that, of course, people want to support them as well. So, but again, so from my point of view, my perspective, it shouldn't be a war. It shouldn't be about who is big or who is small, who is the true, who is not. It should be about the beer. Actually, the big beer companies here also started to put out pretty good, affordable products. They're not like as inspiring or eccentric IPAs or beers, but they are actually, the quality of the products are actually, I think, getting better, and that's a good thing. That's maybe because of the craft beer movement as well. In terms of what people think, of course, people here really feel like they want to support local businesses, not only breweries, but also like bakeries and other like just in general, small companies. So of course, that's going to help the small breweries, I think, in the long run.
How about in Sweden? How is the gap between the big and small?
It's a pretty huge gap, I guess, and I think it's going to stay that way in the future as well. The small breweries are fighting these big fishes like Spendrups, especially, which is that's the biggest producer of beer here in Sweden, and we see also that these big guys are trying to support the smaller businesses in their way of, they offer some of their beers in their portfolio as well. So because they have reckoned that the craft beer movement and the craft beer industry, or if you want to call it that, is growing here, and the interest is growing for these kinds of products here in Sweden rapidly. It's been blooming now for a few years, and it's still does. So I don't think the big industrial beer makers are afraid of this, but they have noticed it, and they're trying to do what they can to be part of it in some way, to support those small ones like Bräckeriet or Odd Island in Gothenburg and stuff like that. And then when it comes to this support local, we can actually feel it ourselves, because the customers that we have as an importer are also supporting us as the local distributor of beers, though we import our beers instead of making it ourselves. So in that way, the smaller businesses is maybe a winner in the end of this, actually. But the gap, I don't think it's going to close because, as Alexis said, it's an image point of view of this as well. They don't want to be connected to like a big brand like Spendrups in that way, actually. That is my thought. They want to have their independency. They want to do what they are good at, and they want to do their thing. Of course, I think they're going to find other ways to instead grow and finance that vision that they have rather. And the industrials are here, and the microbreweries still are part away from the industrial parts. That's my belief, and I think it's also the right philosophy for the breweries themselves.
I have one last question from the audience, and I'm going to wind it up because it says that, well, it says in Finland and in Sweden, but I'm gonna take the Hungarian opinion as well. Do you think that this crisis is gonna deliver any legislation change concerning alcohol or events? How about Alexi? Do you think that, I mean, alcohol is gonna disappear, or is there gonna be any legislation concerning events or beer, craft beer scene?
Well, there's of course the big discussion going on currently about if breweries would be allowed to ship the beers directly into someone's home. So that's a discussion that is currently going on in pretty much all levels of government and public in here. And well, obviously, I would hope that would free at least for the time being, and then when people would see that, oh, suddenly us sending a few naked sauna sours to a guy in Tampere didn't lead to him getting pissed drunk on a Sunday morning.
How about in Hungary? Are there any legislation that could change or should be changed concerning events or craft beer?
Yeah, again, it's hard to think about, because compared to especially those Nordic countries, it's pretty easy to sell beer, order it from the brewery itself, or just have it in a pub. But who knows? Maybe it's not about legislation. Maybe it's about not the legislation of beer, but I feel it could be easier to be like an entrepreneur, let's say. There's a lot of like weird regulations and weird taxes and weird things. So it should be just easier and it's not about just the breweries, it's all about every small business. I feel maybe in that way we could, I'm not sure if we will, but our countries should really change just to make it easier to open your own business and support local. That would be way better, because I don't know, I run a festival, I have a brewery, I have 2 bars now, and I know this whole big dungeon of administration is just like too much, even in this situation. So this could be actually easier, not just for the breweries, but for all kind of small businesses. That's what I think.
In Sweden, you have a lot of regulations like we do. I mean, could be there is a change for regulation concerning craft beer or events?
I don't know, in particular for the events, but I know that there are a discussion going on about Systembolagets monopolies to be or not to be, and some say that in 2 years' time maybe we don't have the monopoly when it comes to the beer side, at least. We can only hope for that to happen. I mean, it's ups and downs with having a monopoly when it comes to alcohol. It's it's a good side and a bad side in it. The bad side is that it's hard for those smaller breweries to get in there to be able to sell their beers. And we have the limit of 3.5 ABVs, which is really dreadful, dreadfully low limit, which makes it difficult for them to make nice beers and nice alternatives for the people if they want to sell it in the supermarket, for instance. But turning to the events, we'll see. We have to wait and see what happens there, because it's very crowded, of course, and I think that people maybe comes to their senses and think of safety first, and Swedish people are believers of the common sense, and I think that will maybe be the answer to the question that no, there's not going to be any changes in legislations or anything like that, but I think that the mindset to the from the people's point of view are going to change, at least in the next 2 years, and then maybe we can see that people are going back to normal again, because we have a vaccine, we have all the we are familiar with the virus. Then we know we make friends with the virus, so to speak, as a doctor put it yesterday when I heard an interview. I mean, people are very adapting. They adapt quick to the situations that they're in. So if there is a festival with 500 people, it's no biggie for them, I think. But of course, what we can see and in a way hope from our point of view is that people are going to run out and buy a lot of beers when they can go to the bars again, in the same way as always. So, but it's a lot of uncertainties.
Let's wrap it up now. We've been talking about events for an hour. It's been a really interesting conversation. Now the last one is, if you can wish something for beer events, what would you wish? What would you wish for the future, Alexi?
For what? For better events?
For beer events, what is something that you could wish for? I mean, what could happen?
Well, for physical events to be possible.
Just to be.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Enough.
Just to be.
We figure out the rest.
So everything would be back to normal. That would be everybody's wish, I think.
I think so.
Ideas or anything you want to tell our listeners? Any greetings or anything?
Yeah, actually I have one. Obviously support your local brewery, and then travel to other countries, to other festivals. So support your local and international breweries. That's all.
That is a good one.
And festivals.
As soon as you can travel.
Once you can travel.
Yes. Thank you. We've been talking about events in CoolHead Talks. We've been having Alexi Saikkonen from CoolHead Brew, who's been arranging a lot of events with Korjaamo, for example, Craft Beer Garden, which is my favorite. I love that event. I hope we're going to have it next year. Then we have Timo Rebak from Budapest Beer Week. I hope we can visit next year that as well.
Yeah.
And then Matthias Björkman from Lucky One Wines and Beers, and you've been arranging events as well. Thank you guys. This has been so much fun. I think we finished our beers, haven't we?
I did.
No.
Yes. So this was CoolHead Talk. I was Aniko Lehtinen, and thank you guys. It's been most pleasant. And you can watch this actually in CoolHead YouTube as well after the live. So watch it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
inviting.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Stay safe. Bye.
Stay
Yeah.
safe.